hit our part of our world, I aligned myself with Joe Bailey right away and begged for a job. So I wanted to be in on what he knew from the get-go. And this was over 30 years ago. I knew that there was something special happening in food psychology, and Joe and Michael both have been leaders and pioneers in a field of new consciousness, and it is really my pleasure to introduce Joe and Michael to all of you. So thank you for coming.
Well, thank you, Sharon. That's so sweet. You know, Sharon and Marie are, as she said, we're like family. We've been friends forever. I don't have too many friends that you can count that you know over 3 decades. So that's a rarity. And I was here at the open house and just so proud of what Sharon and Marie have created here. This is such a beautiful facility for working out, for creating a sense of community and just a connection with other people. You know, in our fast-paced world that we live in, you know, we kind of zoom past each other on the freeway or contact each other with Facebook and texting, and we don't really often have a place where we can really connect in the way that you guys get to do here at this workout facility. And I think it's why a lot of people go to coffee shops or go to workout centers, because they're really longing for that sense of community. And so anyway, it's really nice that they've created this space for all of us, and that you invited me. Have you had other speakers yet?
No.
Oh, okay.
And so you're it.
Oh yeah, okay. So it better be good. If it goes downhill. So do I have to stand on one of these little Bosu things? Is that part of it? Yeah. With a kettlebell. Oh. Yeah. We're the kettlebell king and queen. Not really. So that's an interesting story and maybe a good place to start, because so often many of us are led to fitness, you know, to working out because of a health crisis, you know, or we're overweight, or we find out that we have some sort of an illness and the doctor says you need to get in shape, you need to take care of your body, you need to take care of who you are, because, you know, this is a wake-up call for you. So it was really when I was 56. I'm 66 now, so 10 years ago, I found out I had osteoporosis. And not many men get osteoporosis, maybe more than are diagnosed, because it's usually considered a woman's disease. But there I was going over to tie my shoes to go up and see my mom when she was still alive, and I bent over and my L5 just popped out. And I was like this, and I thought, oh, well, this'll go away. You know, I'd had my back go out before my whole life. And I got up to my mom's, and I couldn't even bend over to take my shoes off. And in my mom's house, you take your shoes off. You do not want to get mud on her carpets. And I couldn't even bend over. And so I went to see Ned Holly the next day to get an acupuncture treatment. And he took one look at me and said, don't even get out of the car. You need drugs. You need to go to the ER room and get on some serious drugs. So I went to the ER room, and they accidentally diagnosed me with a crack in my spine. And so first thing they thought of is we need to have a bone density test. So they gave me a bone density test. The radiologist misread it, and but he misread the X-ray rather, and then they sent me on for bone density testing. It turned out that I had pretty advanced osteoporosis in this hip, and he said, you know, you can't really lift anything more than 3 pounds, and you need to get something to strengthen your bones. You know, I'm recommending Fosamax, I think he put me on, which I couldn't stand. And then he said, you need to do some sort of weight-bearing exercises. So that started a journey for me of rediscovering my body. And we went to John Duquesne's Qigong class. And Qigong is very good for developing the bones and strengthening the bones, as probably many of you know. But the second part of the equation was Qigong, and the other part was doing some sort of weightlifting. So I thought of the Universal Gym or joining Life Fitness or the Y. And he says, no, you need a personal trainer, and I've got just the right guy for you, Ron Morris. He's into this whole new way of exercising that really develops your core and your bones called kettlebells. And nobody knew about kettlebells at that point in time in the Twin Cities, and relatively few people in the US knew about kettlebells, because Pavel had just brought them from Russia with love. Little bells. You all know what the bells are. I can see they're everywhere. And so I started out with the lightest one you could get, and just doing the swing. And within 3 months, I had lost 30 pounds. I was quite overweight. And I had gained my muscle back. I felt healthier than I had felt since I was a teenager running track or playing sports in high school. And I was fit, and Michael got into it, and Ron would come to our house once a week, and we'd teach to Ron about the mind, and he would teach us about the body, and we developed a friendship and a relationship. But that really transformed me physically. I knew a lot about resilience of the mind, but this was my journey to learn about resilience of the body and to discover how the two were connected. Because I discovered very quickly when I lifted some of those 24Ks or 40s or heavier bells that the only thing getting in my way was my thinking, the limitation of my own thinking. And many a time, Ron had an amazing way of helping me to see past my own thinking and to do things that I never imagined I could possibly do. So I was always afraid of my back going out. I had that fear in my mind because I'd always had problems with my back, that if I lifted anything too heavy, I was going to injure myself. And I remember one time in particular when I had he said, you can do a snatch with a 40. And he was going to have me do a snatch with a 40K. And I thought, oh my God. And I got up there and I heard something pop, and I got really afraid, and I put it back down. And Ron just put his hand on there, and he just said, just relax this right now. It's fine. You're going to be fine. Just relax it. And I could feel the whole thing just go back into place. And I realized that what had done it was my fear. So tonight, I want to talk about that relationship between how our psychological health, our psychological resilience relates to our physical resilience. Why do you come here? When you think about it, what is it that you really come? People probably come to work out, but what are you looking for? What is the real benefit? If you were to tell a friend, what is it about total body fitness that you like? What do you feel? How do you feel differently after you leave here? You feel strong in your mind and in your body. Okay, great. So that feeling of strength, confidence, well-being. What else? Supported. A sense of connection, community. That you're not alone in this. What else? Empowered. It makes you, empowered, confident. I can do anything. If I can lift that kettlebell, I can do anything. It really does broaden out to your life beyond just being able to lift a few kettlebells or do an aerobic. It really broadens to the rest of your life. And I've found this my whole life with fitness, rock climbing and skiing, all the different sports that I do, that everything I do broadens out to the rest of my life. What else do you experience? Energy. Yeah. Yeah. So energy, power, connection, confidence, fun. Is it ever fun here? Yeah. You get to laugh. You get to enjoy yourself. So our heart lightens. Our emotions clear. You might come here really stressed out and frustrated. How do you leave after being stressed out and frustrated after a good workout with Marie or Sharon? feel better. Your burden is lightened. You feel less thinking on your mind. When you're having fun, you're doing something that's getting your heart rate up and you're having a good time. You're not thinking about all your problems and worries or other things that may weigh you down. Your mind is calm. It's focused in the moment. You can't lift a kettlebell and focus on it and think about all your problems, right? So we often come to things like this, and fitness just being one of them, because we're looking for a mental state. We're looking for what I would call resiliency. And resiliency has all of those feelings built into it. So I'm going to keep this really simple tonight, because resilience is, even though I teach this to all different kinds of people in society, from hospitals and physicians and CEOs, and work with people about how to use this in terms of business and planning and creating an entrepreneurial thing. It's really quite simple. And so you don't have to think too much. You want to just relax and enjoy yourself, not worry about whether or not you really get everything I'm saying to you tonight, so you don't have to take notes, you don't have to try to memorize anything. What I'm going to teach you, you already know inside, because resilience is innate. Every kid, you look at it, if you ever wonder what resiliency looks like, look at a 4 or 5-year-old or a 3-year-old. And, their emotions are all over the place. They're laughing, crying, screaming, yelling, hollering, but they don't hang on to their feelings, do they? Their mind is in a flow. Thoughts come in and thoughts go out. So it's a perfect balance, a harmony with emotions and thoughts. They also learn more in the first 3 years of their life than we will learn in the rest of our life combined, because their mind is spongy. It's very spongy. It's very open. There is no judgment. There is no right or wrong. There's just curiosity. So that is innate in people. And without that, we wouldn't learn. We wouldn't heal. We wouldn't know how to get over things. We wouldn't know how to forgive. We would have given up. All of us would have given up by now. But because of this inner source of resilience that's in all of us, we're capable of having insights and new thinking, and we're kind of drawn to positivity, just like you're drawn to be here. We're all looking for the same thing. We're looking for a feeling of contentment, well-being, confidence, self-esteem, creative thinking, fun, joy, gratitude, love. These are all feelings that we seek out and we crave, but most of us look out there for them, because that's what our culture tells us to do. If you want to feel good about yourself, you have to have the perfect weight, you have to have the right clothes, you have to have the right hairdo, you have to have the right makeup, you have to have the right car, you have to have if you just get all of that in order, find the right mate, make sure that they're just exactly what you dreamed up and had on your checklist. And if you just get all that, then you will be able to feel complete. But it's like the proverbial donkey with a carrot on a stick. The faster we go after it, the stick moves, or the carrot moves right along with us, because we're always looking out there. So resilience is not to be found out there, even though we might do things that make us feel really good. True resilience, the psychological, mental resilience, is already there, and it's complete and it's whole. And we experience it when our mind gets quiet. This is why people meditate. This is why people run, because they're looking for a state of a quieter mind. This is why people do mindfulness training. So what I'm going to teach you tonight, what I'm going to just is explore some very simple, basic scientific principles behind the science of resilience, and how you can use these really common sense, down-to-earth, very simple principles to be a guidance system to help you get back on track to get back home to this natural state of resilience. So the first thing is, oh, look we've got it. what do I write with? I'm a little nervous about what to write with here. Is this okay? Okay. So the first thing about resilience is that it's natural. It's innate. We're born with it. Can't learn it. You can't find it out there. It's something that is just as natural to you as the immune system heals your body. When you cut yourself, with a knife, or you smash your finger with a kettlebell or something, and it's bleeding, you don't have to figure out, now how am I going to get that to heal? You just cover it, protect it, and the body is already manufacturing certain cells and chemicals to mend that skin, to knead it together, to stop the bleeding, and to begin healing. And you put a Band-Aid on it and you forget about it. And all of a sudden it'll start itching and the scab's ready to come off, and one day you notice in the shower it falls off and, oh, just a little red mark there. A week later there's not even a red mark. So the body does that without any thinking. It's the same thing with resilience. We have these natural feelings that I talked about, that when our mind is at ease, when our mind is clear of unnecessary thinking, things like worry, fear, resentment, bother, judgment. Now, we all have those thoughts, right? How many in here have never had one of those thoughts or feelings? Everybody. We've all had judgment. We've all had fear. We've all had anxiety. We've all had stress. We all have had sadness and depression. Those are also very natural to human beings, but they're natural in an unnatural way. When we misuse this gift of thought, which if you look behind every psychological experience, there are certain fundamental principles that govern every psychological experience. Every bit of anger, every bit of sadness, every bit of love, every bit of gratitude is created from the power of the mind. So that's the second thing we're going to talk about, is that resilience is governed by principles. And principles are constants. Just like before we understood how the universe worked, before we understood the principles of physics or chemistry or any science, we were not able to very easily understand what was going on out there. So it looked like the world was flat. Because if you look out, it looks flat, right? Your mind tells you it's flat. But through observation and understanding the stars and just observing in curiosity, like those children, Copernicus and Galileo and people back a few hundred years ago started to see that there were certain patterns that didn't make sense according to the common wisdom of the time. So we used to think that the sun just went back and forth, and I don't know where it went. Apollo must have taken it across the sky, according to the Romans, or what was the Greeks' god, Zeus, or was it the other way around? I can't remember. I always get the Greeks and the Romans mixed up. But we had all of this mythology. We had all these beliefs about how the world works. But once we understood the principles behind how the universe actually worked, that the Earth was actually round, and it was not the center of the universe, but a little tiny planet going around one star called the sun, in one little solar system, part of one tiny little universe called the Milky Way, or galaxy, and that was one of billions of universes, each with billions and billions of stars. So there were literally trillions of planets like us in the universe. So our world went from being really small to really large, and it allowed us to do all the things that we do today. Understanding those scientific principles allowed us to fly airplanes, go to the moon, have satellites going around this planet so we can all be addicted to our cell phones and just can't answer all of our emails every day because there's all this information floating around. And all of that was from developments within understanding the principles, the constants behind how the physical universe worked. But in terms of our psychological world, we're still kind of in the dark ages. We have been born into a world historically where it looks like our experiences are coming from out there. How I feel is based on what you're thinking about me, or what I think you're thinking about me, or how you looked at me, or what the traffic was doing on our way over here when we were bottlenecked. You know, if it looks like the traffic is really frustrating me, I've just misunderstood where my experience is coming from. It looks like it's traffic. It looks like it's what other people are feeling or thinking or how they're behaving, or what the demands of my job, or how many pounds that I need to lose, or what the scale says in the morning. But my experience is actually coming from the power of my mind. The mind is what generates all human experience. And the mind is invisible. I'm not talking about the brain here. I'm talking about a universal power that allows us to experience life. We call that mind. But that mind includes the brain, but it's not limited to the brain. So the mind is just the energy of all things. It's an intelligence energy that is, you could call it the life force, you could call it spiritual energy, you could call it the force, you could call it the energy of all things. Every philosophy, every religion, every science has a different name for that, but without that we wouldn't be able to experience life. But if you just had mind and you didn't have thought, it'd be kind of a blank screen. It'd be like going to the theater and sitting down with the lights on and there's nothing on the screen. So the electricity's running, mind, but there's no film in the projector. So the film, what's on the film is what we think. So moment to moment, another constant is that we're always thinking. Even when we're asleep, we're thinking. And whatever we're thinking in this moment, so there's mind, which is the power principle, where the power comes from. Second principle is thought, which is what we create our experience with. If you couldn't think, like if you weren't thinking, you wouldn't be seeing me right now. Or if you're thinking about something else right now, I disappear, and whatever you're thinking about is what's on your mind. Have you ever been reading a book and you're going along and all of a sudden you realize that you haven't paid attention to where your eyes went in the last 5 pages or even previous few sentences? And you go, and you were thinking about something else, and your eyes were still reading, going through the pages, but you weren't experiencing it. You were experiencing your thoughts. And they go, oh no, so you have to go back and reread it. And all of a sudden that other thought starts coming in your head again, and pretty soon you realize, oh my God, I've just lost consciousness again. So whatever you're thinking, mind combines with thought to turn it into an experience, your psychological reality. This is really powerful when you see that. But you could have that tape running, that film running through the projector, but if you didn't have the light on that projector, and you didn't have speakers with wires going to the speakers, you would still not experience what was on that tape. I mean, if you had I have a DVD in my hand, and I say, watch this, and I give it to you, you could look at the outside, but you wouldn't experience the DVD because you aren't running it through the player. So the player that brings thought to life is consciousness. So we're all conscious beings. It's kind of a miracle that whatever you think, can turn into your reality. Like everything in this room, those ropes, those kettlebells, at some point someone had an idea, they had a thought about a kettlebell, about a camera, about total fitness. Sharon had a dream, and Marie had a dream to create this place. And voila, here it is. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and money and debt probably in between, but there was a lot of energy from a lot of other people, and here we have this place. And it all started from a thought. And if you look at your life, everything in your life came from a thought. And a thought combined with consciousness, so you like, Sharon would tell us about her dream about this place and bounce it off and talk to Michael about it and talk to Marie about it, talk to other people, and maybe got advice from other people, but she started to manifest that thought into a physical existence. Oh, there's people here. There's 30 people here. There's people working out. Now a business is starting. Well, every business from 3M to Cargill to US Air to, every invention that was ever created, every relationship that ever happened started from thought. So we as human beings have this gift of existence. We come into this world from wherever, and we come in to experience life. And when we understand how we're actually creating our experience, we get to experience this natural resilience more often. So resilience the effects of resilience are all the things I described: contentment, gratitude, well-being, energy, motivation, connection, love, the ability to intuit things, to make things up, to create things. So resilience allows us to enjoy our life, to have fulfilling careers, to have fulfilling relationships, to have a good workout. When we're in a resilient state, we're at our best. Like when think about when you're at your best. Like you think of your best workout, or the best class you ever gave Marie, when you're really in the zone, or anything that you like to do. Think of a time when you were like in that zone. That is when you are at your best. So if you're insecure about what you're doing, if you doubt yourself, if you get caught up in your habitual insecure thinking, you will dim the light on that resilience. You'll cover up that resilience, but you can never destroy it. You can never destroy that capacity to be happy, to be fulfilled, to have joy and gratitude. It might be buried, but it's never destroyed. It's always possible to come back to life. And when we understand these three principles of mind, thought, and consciousness, and I don't mean intellectually, like it's not about memorizing those three words and their definitions that's going to make you a happy person. It's about having insight as you're going through life. Like, let's say I'm standing on the Bosu, okay? Oh my God, what if I fall? What if I fall in Joe's lap? Oh God, but if I'm really just relaxed, my body already knows how to balance itself. But when I get afraid, I get in the way of that body's natural, because you know how to walk, right? You don't have to think about it when okay, left foot, right foot, left foot. You just do it automatically. Your body knows how to adjust and balance and, manage the terrain, the cobblestones or the step, or it just knows how. You don't have to think about it. You can be talking on the phone while you're walking or standing on the Bosu. So, but we can get in the way of that natural resilience, that natural ability by misunderstanding or misusing this gift and power of thought, mind, and consciousness. And thought's the one that we talk about most because it's a little bit tangible. Consciousness is like the invisible special effects of the brain and the senses that makes a thought appear real. So think of the best HD 3D movie with super goggles, virtual reality goggles that you can imagine, and it doesn't hold a candle to the human mind to create an experience of reality. The other cool thing is you can actually imagine things that aren't real. Like when I do seminars, I show this video of these two goldfish in a little fishbowl, and they're swimming along, and George and Sam, and they're going along, and they run into this big old goldfish, and he says, "Hey boys, how's the water?" They go along a little further, and one looks at the other and says, "What the hell's water?" And it's like that with thought. It was for me. Here I am, a psychologist, clinical psychologist, for 10 years. You'd think I'd know a little bit about thought, wouldn't you? I had no idea that I was thinking. I'd analyze my thoughts. I'd analyze everybody else's thoughts. I'd diagnose everybody's thoughts, give them a good label. But I had no idea that my experience was coming from my thinking in the moment. It was like waking up and seeing water for the first time, realizing that I was in a water world. Well, we all live in a world of our own thinking. And every moment, what we're always feeling is our thoughts. Now, I might be with Joe. I'm going to pick on you, Joe, because you're an easy target, and you're so close to my wife, and she'll protect you. But if Joe and I are having a conversation, and all of a sudden I start imagining that Joe doesn't like me, or he's judging me, what am I going to feel? Insecure, hurt, angry, or I don't like him. Depending on what I'm thinking, I'm going to have a different reaction. I might even think, gee, Joe must be having a bad day. He looks kind of like he's got a lot on his mind. And I might feel compassion for Joe. So my experience, moment to moment, will change depending on how I'm thinking about how Joe is thinking. So Joe's thinking doesn't get to decide my feeling. But my thinking about Joe's feeling is what decides my feeling. So we're always only ever experiencing whatever's in the film strip. Whatever's in the film strip will get projected onto the wall of our reality, our psychological reality. That is so huge to realize that when you can start to see that or get even a glimpse of it every now and then, that I'm actually making all this up. I'm making up my movies about life. Now, I don't mean that there aren't real things going on in the world, that the news isn't actually on and there aren't really serious things happening, or that your car didn't just break down, or that you didn't just lose your job. I don't mean that there isn't an external world. But I used to believe that circumstances equaled experience. Circumstances, there was a one-to-one relationship between what was happening out there and what I was experiencing. I now see that it's C plus T equals experience. And the T is thought. Mind, thought, and consciousness are what are actually giving you your experience. Because like everyone in here right now is having a different experience of this talk. And moment to moment, you might be thinking, gee, I wonder how they're all taking this talk, or you might be thinking about something that's going on at home or after this meeting, or how long is this going to go on, or whatever you're thinking is going to be giving you an experience. So that's what your feelings are for. Your feelings are like a feedback system to wake you up and remind you that you're making this up. You're creating this. So, just like when you're standing here on the Bosu and your body feels like it's going to fall over, you feel out of balance, that's information that gets sent to your muscles that makes you move your arm and bring yourself back into a state of balance. So we're always feeling the physical sensation of our thoughts. And if we're aware of how we're feeling, and we know where the feeling is coming from, not from my mate, the weather, the time of the year, my bank account, but from how I'm thinking about it in this moment, then what happens when we see that connection, it settles us down. It gives us our power. We feel empowered because we realize everybody else's behavior isn't controlling my feeling. And when you see that, it empowers you to see where your power really lies, which is within yourself. And when you see that, it calms you down. You immediately calm down. And when you calm down, you make room for new thinking, which we call insight. And an insight is a sight from within. It's a new way of thinking about something. I never thought about it that way. Wow, what if the Earth actually was round? What if we weren't the center of the universe? Well, if you go against what people believe, they'll usually burn you at the stake. In those days, that's what they did with Copernicus and a few others. They either were under house arrest or they burned them at the stake because it upset people's belief systems. But as long as you hang on to the old thinking, whether it's societal or your individual thinking, you will live in a world of limitation. You'll never lift that 24K. You'll never lose that extra 10 pounds because you don't think you can. But as you begin to understand that you live in a world of limitless possibilities, only limited by your own thinking, then you are able to entertain new thought. And that's what resilience is. Resilience is the capacity all of us have to have new thinking regardless of circumstances. Think about that. Like you can be in the worst situation in history. I recently watched The Roosevelts on PBS. Anyone else see that? Great to see FDR. This is really interesting that FDR got infantile polio when he was 39 or 38 years old. A grown man. He'd been very athletic, a tennis player, golfer, good-looking guy, on his rise up to be president of the United States. He gets struck with polio. He gets really depressed. And he ends up going to, what was the name of that place in Georgia? Something Springs, Georgia, where other people who had polio went to get these mineral baths. And it was there that he was determined to learn to walk again and to stand on his own feet and to get his life back. But what really changed him was that he got outside of himself and he started helping everyone around him. And he discovered he stayed there for like 4 years and helped these people he took half his fortune. The Roosevelts had a lot of money. He took half of his fortune, his wife about shot him, and put it in, and he bought this old hotel and he turned it into a sanatorium for polio victims. But in that experience, he changed psychologically. He evolved. He learned to not be afraid of fear. And just about that time, he got elected to be president during the Depression. After he had that huge insight. He had a big revelation, a transformational experience. And he led this nation out of the Depression completely as a therapist. He was the nation's therapist. through his fireside chats. His first one, he said, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself." And in that little 45-minute talk, he talked hundreds of thousands of Americans into putting the money they had just taken out of their bank account the week before and put it back in the bank so the banks didn't go under. And that saved the banks, and it saved otherwise who knows what would have happened. But he did all that through thought, through his vision. And he said we had to stick together, and he encouraged people, but he never gave up because he knew that the only thing that was going to defeat them were their own thoughts. He may not have said it that way, but that's what it was about. He knew it was our thinking that was the problem. And that if we got our spirit back, we got our faith back, we got our hope back, we got our belief that we could do this if we did it together, we were able to come out of the depression. So that's resilience. Resilience is the ability to have hope when no one else has hope. To see possibility when no one else can see the possibility. To have faith in yourself when everybody else has given up on you. Or to have someone else have faith in your resilience when you've given up on yourself. I can think of, and you can probably all think of, many people in your life who believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself, and it took you to the next step. So that's what resilience is, and understanding how we create our reality is the science behind resilience that brings out this innate capacity that we all have. And when you have that resilience, you're going to have a better workout, you're going to listen better, you're going to learn more, you're going to see more possibilities of how to have a better life here. Sometimes we can see that our feelings are coming from our thinking. Oh yeah, I was in a low mood yesterday. Sorry I said that to you. I didn't really mean it. I was such a crank. I didn't really mean it. So in hindsight, I can see, oh, it was my thinking that was creating that reaction. But most of the time in the moment, it looks like our feelings are coming from something other than our thinking. We call that being outside in. It looks like our reality is coming from the outside in. But when we are lucky enough in the moment to see that our thinking might have something to do with how we're reacting, we're empowered, we feel free, and we get new thinking. Well, this has been very, very helpful with people with severe and persistent mental illnesses. Did you ever see The Beautiful Mind, the Russell Crowe? There was a man with paranoid schizophrenia. It's a true story. A great scientist who, I'll never forget the last scene in that movie where he's standing at the podium and he's getting the Nobel Peace Prize for physics for a discovery he made. And he's looks out, and all through the movie you see him imagining that the FBI is after him. They're always dressed in black suits with white shirts and black ties, and they're always there. And so he's walking out, and he sees them all sitting on the steps and in the foyer. And he just kind of nods to him. And he knows they're his thoughts. So before he knew they were his thoughts, he would, run or do something erratic or violent, or he would be at the mercy of his thinking. But through an awareness, that we call it in psychology metacognition, where you're having a thought and having an experience with that thought, but another part of you, in a sense, for the moment, is aware you're having a thought and creating an experience. So in schizophrenia, I have a cousin that's schizophrenic who's learned these principles from me, and I said, "How you doing, Marie?" She says, "Well, the hallucinations are been really active lately, but thank God I know they're just my thinking." I go through the halls and I think, oh, people are thinking about me and talking about me, but I know, it's just maybe I need to have my meds adjusted, And so she has this relationship to her schizophrenic thinking that protects her from acting on that schizophrenic thinking. So I've been doing this for 34 years, Sharon. We treated over 5,000 people at the Minneapolis Institute. And the stories, one of them, the main story is the gal who confessed all the murders was at the conference last couple weeks ago. I hadn't seen her in 20 years. This woman was one of the most insane people in Hennepin County. She had a file this thick when she came in the door. She had been diagnosed with every label you can imagine. She had been sexually abused and borderline personality, paranoid schizophrenic, alcoholic, chemically dependent, depressed, anxiety. I mean, she had every label in the DSM-5. And she got healthy. She found mental health. Now, she still has the same brain chemistry. She still has the same genetics. She still has the same horrible history. But she has an understanding of her thinking and her moment-to-moment experience that's like a super psychological immune system that allows you to be around people with leprosy or Ebola and not catch it. Everyone in here has cancer cells in their body. We all do. But our immune system, if we don't have cancer, is stronger at the moment than our cancer cells. So that keeps them in tow. Well, we can have horrible pasts, horrible histories, terrible genetics, brain damage, brain disorder. But because mind, thought, and consciousness are not of the physical body, they're a before form, like gravity. You can't see it. You can just see the effects of it. It's invisible. Same with mind, thought, and consciousness. They're invisible forces that govern our experience. And once you understand that, you are able to live with, like I have crazy thoughts all the time. Completely insane thoughts. I still do. I still have I used to have panic disorder. I used to have severe anxiety most of my life, school phobia. Get up in front of a group, I had a thought yesterday morning, oh my God, I have to give this talk tomorrow. I hadn't even thought about it. I had like 4 in the morning, I had a slight little feeling of anxiety and thought, oh, that was a thought. So I work a lot with physicians who have extremely stressful jobs. They're working enormous hours, tons of constraints in them doing their work with the healthcare system, financial, computers, you name it. And learning this has helped them to be better physicians, more caring, listen to their patients better, be more present, instead of totally angry and upset and frustrated with the system all day. I feel like I've got my profession back. I'm able to actually get back to doctoring now that I've got the thought thing taken care of. They still have the thoughts, but they know now not to go there. Any other questions or comments? Yeah.
And it was kind of common because I had fear because of that camera. And so I said, I'm going to be resilient and just ignore the camera.
Okay.
But this is so appropriate.
I didn't think about it until you mentioned that.
I am having a really difficult time at work. I'm a mortgage underwriter, and with financial reform, everything is turned upside down, and everything is audited. And I am so afraid of not passing that I feel like I can't do my job anymore. I come here so stressed and crying, and I speak with Sharon that I'm so overwhelmed. It's because I'm having fear that I don't know how to do my job, and I know how to do my job.
You do know how to do your job.
I do. And just the way you put it tonight, that's what I'm going to take home, and that's what I'm going to work on.
Yeah. If you can see, I'm not saying that your job isn't challenging and maybe more difficult than before, but if you can, I was really stressed out, burned out therapist when I first learned this. I was ready to quit my job. I couldn't stand another day of it. I couldn't listen to another depressed person who was going to get depressed myself. And so the weekend after I learned this, the week after I learned this, I'm driving to work. in rush hour traffic, and I'm just dreading seeing patients all day. I'm dreading the meeting I have to lead. I'm thinking all this, and as I'm doing it, I'm just tightening up more and more and more, and my body is just, I'm like exhausted, and it's 7 in the morning. And then it was like, I'm making this up. I'm in the car. I'm not even at work. It's actually a beautiful day out there. Look at the colors. It was fall, and I was noticing the colors, and I was noticing the trees, and all of a sudden it seemed like the traffic seemed to start to pick up and go better, it was like my first time right back into my own life that I saw the practicality of this, and it calmed me down, and I just was fine for about 1.5 miles, and then it came back. And then I noticed that, and I just relaxed again. So in the beginning, it was like, just little bits of reprieve. But as I saw the relationship between how I was thinking about what was going on versus what was actually going on in this moment, it helped me to see what was the real cause of my stress. And what that did was that when I did go to work, my day went better. I looked at my patients and I thought, gee, I've got the nicest patients in the world. Where did they come from? It looked like I got a whole new batch of patients. Honest to God, I really thought, wow, they're really getting better. Thank God, I would have burned out. And I was blaming them for my good feeling. But in fact, I was seeing them with different eyes because of what I had realized. And all of a sudden, it was just like I could see their health, and I could see how to guide them back to health, and I'd completely changed the way I did therapy for the previous 10 years. I didn't even know what I was doing, and I was getting great results. I had no idea what to say to them. But they said, God, you're finally making sense, Joe. Why didn't you tell us this before? One guy wanted all of his money back from the previous 5 years of therapy. I said, well, no, that's not going to work. But and I don't want to sound too Pollyannish about this, but I'm not overstating it, really. If you are lucky enough to have an insight from what you've heard tonight, even a little one, it'll lead to another one and another one. It's like a water. It starts with just a trickle, and then pretty soon it's the Mississippi River. It just gets bigger and bigger. And that's how understanding goes. It just keeps evolving. And so the little things that used to completely rock my world, it just are nothing now. And I don't have anxiety and fear. I have thoughts of it, but I don't have it anymore. I just rarely. And it used to be my best friend. I thought fear was what kept me alive. Yeah.
One thing I thought about is, humans and our body and our minds, how our brains has taken thousands of years to develop. And they've all done it slowly. And in the last 100, 150 years, we've had massive changes in society and technology. You can hop on a plane, travel 600 miles an hour, at 30,000 feet, a decent place in an hour and a half. And so this huge change, but our bodies and our mind and our brain, I feel like we haven't had.
We're back in the, yeah.
How our minds would work 300, 400, 500 years ago, how we would have viewed it, how our experience would have been quite a bit different, but our bodies are almost the same as what they would have been 300 years ago, absent, medical advancements. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's going to take a leap in consciousness for human beings to deal with the world we have created. It's not a bad thing, what we've created, but we haven't caught up with it. And so we have to, Einstein once said, humankind cannot solve its problems at the level of thinking that created his problems or her problems. So you have to have a leap of understanding. You have to have new thinking. You have to have a quantum leap and consciousness. So to me, that's what these principles have come into the world for, is to help us see how to deal with an extremely frenetic, speeded up world of hyper activity, so that it's not, because we're trying to think in the old ways, and you can't think that fast. It's not possible. It'd be like think of it like a musician, a really talented musician. And then think of me trying to learn to pluck out a song on the guitar. I have to think of every movement I make on my hand. If I tried to think of it that way, I could never play a song. But you take a Johnny Winter, who just died, a great rock musician, or I don't know, who's the great classical guitar player, very advanced. They can play thousands of notes in a minute, and they're not even looking at their hands. They're in a different zone, a different way of thinking. So the kind of thinking that we have to live in this world is a different way of a different way of using the mind. That is so much simpler, where you see the simplicity of things in a very complex world. I wrote a book that's there. I'm not trying to sell them. I'm just saying, slowing down to the speed of life, creating a more peaceful world. Another one was The Speed Trap, How to Avoid the Frenzy of the Fast Lane. I wrote those books because of the frenetic pace of society, and applying how these principles can help us slow down to the present moment and actually be more productive, more efficient, more successful with less thinking. How to access insightful, creative, innovative thinking. Like when I work with healthcare leaders, they know that they keep working their people harder and harder and harder, and it's just killing everybody. They know that the answer is not to have them work more hours, so they know that the answer is going to come from innovative thinking, a whole new way of seeing healthcare, a whole new way of doing medicine, and so that's why they're having me train their employees how to do this, because they know if they keep thinking in the old ways, they're all going to kill themselves with heart attacks and strokes if they don't change the way they're doing it, because they're using the old way of thinking in a new world. So we have to make humankind has to make a leap of consciousness. It's necessary for its survival. It's necessary to find peace on the planet. There was a guy at the conference. I was standing at the urinal. I said, "Where are you from?" He says, "West Africa." I said, "Oh, wow, what are you doing here?" He says, "I'm a Muslim. I'm here to take the principles into this Islam religion. I see the possibility for peace with my people, with these principles, because they're at the very foundation of Islam." There was a Hasidic Jew in the next urinal who said the same thing, that this is exactly at the heart of the Torah, these principles. This is what the Torah is all about. And you listen to a Christian priest, and he would say the same thing. So at the heart of all of the religions, and these principles have always been there. They're nothing new, but they haven't been elucidated in a practical, common sense way that can be useful for people until now. So that's what's happening, and it's happening big time all over the world. There's thousands of teachers teaching what I'm teaching you tonight all over the planet right now. And it's transforming corporations, healthcare, prisons, inner cities, schools, mental health, addictions treatment. There isn't really an area where it's not being applied. Coaching, physical fitness, athletic. There was an athletic, a guy who coaches the soccer team from Sweden was there, teaching principles to the soccer players, the same principles. Bingo.
Sometimes I think we worry about 10 different things that have to happen today in the next 5 years or 10 years, but we forget the moment that we're living in, and I think that's what life is like for humans.
we forget that we actually made up time. Time does not exist. It's a, I listened to a interview with a guy who runs the most accurate clock in the world. It'd take like 1,000,000 years for it to be off half a second or something. It's just ridiculous. And the guy says, well, what is time? He says, well, Einstein said, time is what human beings made up. It doesn't really exist. It's what we make up to order our lives. It's not real. The only thing that's real is the moment. It is, so we do go back, in a sense, to where we were when we were kids, to where we were when we were cavemen. We were more present and in the moment. But you can live in this world, this complex world of internet and Facebook and texting and all the things we do, and be in the moment by recognizing you're thinking in the moment. It's the door to it. It opens the door to the moment. It's one of the ways you know you're resilient is that you're more in the moment. You find yourself less concerned about the future and the past. And like I used to worry about the future all the time, and now I just kind of know, I'll know when I get there. I'm going to have the insight I'm going to need in the moment when I get there. I don't have to think about it. Doesn't mean I don't get ideas or make plans to get on an airplane or plan in that way, but I'm not worried about things anymore. Worry never really solves anything. It just destroys brain cells and stomach acid and lining. It just has the illusion that you're actually keeping the plane up by your fear, It's not the laws of physics. Well, thank you very much. You guys have been, we've gone over, it's an hour and a half. Thank you for listening, and I hope you got something out of this.
It was wonderful to have you. And really, this was done out of the kindness of his heart. This was just a generous donation of his time.
What about what we talked about?
The thousands of dollars?
Yeah.
But,
well,
yeah.
my contribution to your success, whatever I can do.
You've contributed for years, so thank you.
You're welcome.
And please feel free to, if you want to browse at some of the books and if you're interested in buying, I'll be selling his books. So thank you everyone for coming. This was really wonderful to have you all in the audience. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks to all you.